We're now going to look at combining objects that we've created in the object drawing mode. We've seen previously that this drawing mode creates objects that don't automatically interfere with one another. They simply stack up on top of each other. But we can still make them interact manually. Flash 8 gives us a set of Boolean operations for this, and they're up here in the menu under Modify and Combine Objects. Let's start this off by creating two shapes on the stage using object drawing. Grab the rectangle tool and make sure that the object drawing button is pressed in, and let's draw two rectangles, each one with a different fill. Back to the selection tool now, and let's make sure that both of these are selected, and cruise back up here to the menu, Modify Combine Objects. We're going to cover the first entry here, Delete Envelope, in a few minutes. So the first thing to play with now is Union. Let's hit that and have a look at what it's done. Well, it's just combined these two objects into a single one. You can now treat this object like any other, applying transforms, etc. Useful, but kind of boring. So let's undo that and try the next one. This one is intersect. Hit that, and this time Flash creates a single object. Only this time the object contains only the parts of the two original objects that overlapped. Kinda cool. Notice that the new single object has the characteristics of the object that was sitting on top. In this case, by undoing, we can see that this was the object with the lighter blue fill. Okay, let's go to the next one. This one is Punch. This one works sort of like combining artwork that we saw in the last lesson, except that one object disappears. Flash uses the top object to cut the overlapping area out of the bottom objects, and then deletes the top object. As you can see, the shape of the top rectangle has simply been cut out of the bottom one. Okay, undo that. And finally, we have Crop. On first glance, this looks similar to intersect from before, but it's actually just the inverse of Punch. The crop operation uses the top object as a kind of cropping mask to crop the bottom object to the area in which the both objects overlap. The top object is deleted, and the bottom object retains all of its properties. Now, after all these operations are performed, you can still edit the resulting object directly by changing the stroke and fill here or in the Properties panel. The only time you can't do this is when you've performed a union operation on objects with different strokes and fills. Let's back up a couple of steps and do that now. The fills are different between these two, so we'll go Combine Objects and Union. The Properties panel now tells us that our object contains two different fills, but you can still edit this. Double-click it, and you can now work with the strokes and fills directly. Now, to finish up, I mentioned earlier that we would be covering the Delete Envelope entry. Before we can do that, we of course need to apply an envelope, and we do that in one of two ways. Either choose Modify, Transform, and Distort or Envelope, or just grab the free Transform tool. Do whatever you like to this. And later, if you decide you totally hate it, just choose Modify, Combine Objects, and Delete Envelope. And that's it for combining objects.